let's move it over to the other two faces we have, Rachel and Jordan. Rachel, do you want to start us off and tell us a little bit about yourself? What's your role at SunMed? How long have you been with the company? What's the most annoying Justin does at work? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so my name is Rachel Edwards. I've been with SunMed for about 7 months now. Before this, I was in grad school actually in North Carolina. I went to North Carolina State for my master's in horticulture right after I graduated undergrad in 2018. And I went to Clemson University for my undergrad. We, let's see, we moved up here in August and I was able to start working in September. And let's see, the most annoying thing Justin does, he's usually like, you didn't tag this plant right. But yeah, as the propagation specialist, I'm just kind of in charge of keeping stock of all of our mother plants, all of our genetic lines, and making the baby plants kind of the start of our supply chain here at SunMed.
Cool. And just for people who don't know, can you talk about the process of propagation and what that entails?
Yeah, so here at SunMed, we do a clonal propagation. So that means we're taking cuttings off of our mother plants and we stick those into our propagation room where it's a very like cool, humid environment for them. Not too cool, but like 75, which compared to the rest of the greenhouse is pretty cool. And yeah, we just let them sit in there and create roots on those little sticks, and they become plants one day.
Awesome. And so as a clone, then it's the exact genetic copy of the mother plant that you take it from?
Yes. So the big like enticing factor of clonal propagation is that every plant you take is going to be exactly the same.
Cool. And then when do those annoying tags get introduced? What size does the plant?
Those tags get introduced at transplant. So when I take my cuttings every week, I write down what the mother plant tags are. And then I give this all to Justin in a log, and I keep track of how many cuttings I've produced each week, and each crop that we have has its own crop card and label. So then once they sit in my room for 4 weeks and do their time, get their roots on, they go out to transplant.
Awesome. And
Rachel, could I actually just tag up on that real quick? Could you go into that a little bit more about what that 4-week process is like from taking that cutting to then what week 1, 2, 3, and 4 look like before we do transplant?
Definitely. So week 1, we dip the cuttings in some sort of rooting hormone, and then we put them in our little trays. We actually have domes that go on them in the first week, and within that first week, the plants are starting to callus where they've been cut, and those calluses will start their root initiation in the second week. And so after the second week, their roots have started to initiate. Their third week, we let them grow. They get nice and full in the plug. And then that 4th week, they're ready for transplant.
And just to get an idea of volume, how many clones would you cut in a day or in a week? Or
so per week, we're producing roughly 4,000 to 5,000 cuttings.
4,000 to 5,000 cuttings. Jeez.
Yep.
And just another fun fact while we're talking about plant numbers. So 4,000 to 5,000 cuttings a week. And then in our facility currently at any time, there are 25,000 metric tagged plants. So between flowering and vegetative growth, it's about 18,000 plants in flower and about 7,000 plants in veg at any given time.
Cool. And actually the benefit of the audience, what is the difference between a vegetative growth and a flowering growth, and how do you induce the flowering cycle?
Yeah, so the flowering plants are induced by a light cycle. They're a photoperiod plant, which means their flowering is going to be dictated by how many hours of sunlight they get. And so when the plants go on a 12-12 light cycle, that's when they'll induce flower. All of our vegetative rooms and our mother rooms are kept at a 20-hour life cycle. So those are getting a lot more light. The lights stay on until about 1 a.m. And yeah, they will not initiate flower under those long days.
And so when you physically move plants into a flowering stage, you change the light cycle. How many plants again do you usually have flowering at any given moment?
At any moment, we have 18,000 plants flowering. So yeah, it's 18,000 plants.
And so on a weekly basis, there are obviously bigger plants now because they've gotten bigger. You transition into flowering. How many plants?
So we push in on average about 2,200. About 2,200 to 2,500 plants per week move from veg into flower. We have 8 flowering tracks. So basically 8 rows that these plants can fit on. And basically we're able to harvest 1 full track a week. So that's roughly, 2,200, 2,500 plants. And at the end of the day, it comes out to about 600 pounds of dry product per week.
And since we're on the topic of strains and those types of things, so this is kind of more to the group. I'll let whoever take it. But is there a particular maybe favorite strain from a cultivation or work standpoint, or maybe one that doesn't play so nice with others that is your little pet peeve project? I'm curious on your guys' opinion on that.
I will definitely let Rachel drive on telling me about her favorite strains and what kind of gives her trouble and not trouble in her room. But what I will say, strategically, what SunMed did rather early on is realize that we need to, again, coming from that horticultural mindset, you look for super crops, right? Things that you can get down to a recipe, do correctly, do well, and do it over and over again. So we dialed in on what we called our super strains, which is about 5 or 6 strains that we really spent a lot of time and care to make sure that we got the recipe right. And we grew those in mass, and I think we've done them very well. And now we're at a point where we'd like to reintroduce some of those more classic genetics that we've had on ice here at the facility for a while. And now with the expansion fully open and complete and ready for business, we have a lot more room to try out production with a lot more strains. So while we love Sunshine number 4, we love our lemon skunk, we love grape lime Ricky, lemon meringue. There are a few that Rachel's been getting to have some fun with lately that I think we'll be seeing a lot more on the shelf. So Rachel, take it away.
Yeah, so like Justin said, Sunshine, grape lime, lemon skunk, lemon meringue, those have always been our big superstars. And so those always were great for me in my prop room. I never have any trouble with them. They're always just like generally well-growing plants. And I think what we look for in a strain or a cultivar is just consistency, uniformity, something that we can kind of put with the rest of our system that exists, and it'll do well. So strains like Purple Punch that are much smaller than the other ones can be kind of difficult getting that irrigation dialed in right when you only have one zone for every single strain in the facility. Can be a little difficult because then they all have to get the same amount of water, so I'm feeding my giant lemon skunks the same amount of water as my tiny Purple Punch plants. So sometimes that can get frustrating, I guess. But I would say as far as like my personal favorite strain, I love Rosetta Stone. I think it's one we haven't seen a whole lot of, and we've just gotten it back into the mix. And it's just an all-around great strain. It roots well. I think it grows well for us in flower, and I definitely feel like it does well on the back end too.
And then to loop in Jordan, what are some strains that you like to see like in the dry room or that particularly work well from a post-harvest standpoint, or what does some of your team particularly roll their eyes when they have to work with?
So kind of in line with what Justin was saying, we did some super strains. And so I think my guys want to throw things at me when I tell them we have to work on more Sunshine. So just because they like to look at all the different things. But one of my favorites is a classic. I love lemon skunk, and I just love the way it smells, and it dries great and it looks great. It's perfect. And I think it does really well here. It really does. But again, they're looking a lot forward to, you know, these upcoming weeks with some of these different ones. And it's funny because a lot of people haven't been here as long as I have. So they see these names and they go, are they new? Like hashtag I smell gas and Kalishnikova. And I was like, they're not new. They're just back. So it's going to be really exciting to see all that stuff coming in. You know, it's going to be great.